The gavel slammed like a gunshot, freezing the air in the courtroom. Every sound vanished but the echo. Janelle Carter's scream shattered the silence as her knees buckled, her body collapsing in slow motion to the floor. Her son, Michael, just 17, stood in chains, frozen, eyes distant, like his soul had left him behind. The judge's voice still rang in the background, life without the possibility of parole. A flashbulb popped from the press section, catching the exact moment Janelle's body went limp, her sobs swallowed by the chaos. The bailiff rushed forward, but it was too late. She was already on the ground, clawing at the floor as if digging for justice. Michael didn't cry. He didn't flinch. He leaned toward the guard, whispered, "This wasn't justice. This was revenge." Then he walked, shoulders tense, face blank, as he was led away. The reporters swarmed like vultures. But only one question remained in Janelle's mind: how did it come to this? Before this moment, Michael Carter had never even been inside a courtroom. He was a quiet honor student from the East End, volunteered at the library, brought home straight A's, and worked 2 part-time jobs to help his mom cover rent. His life was small, careful, and filled with purpose. But none of that mattered the night everything fell apart. A house party. A scream. A body on the floor. Michael's friend, Jason, stabbed. And Michael, standing nearby, stunned, holding nothing but a bloody towel. The police didn't hesitate. No weapon in hand, no motive, but one officer said he was the only one who didn't run. That was enough. Enough to arrest. Enough to hold. Enough to convict. The world didn't care that Michael had no history. It cared only for a story that made sense. And that story painted him guilty. Janelle Carter had raised Michael alone. Every lunch packed, every night of homework, every scraped knee, she handled it all. Their life wasn't glamorous, but it was solid. She was a school secretary by day, caregiver by night, especially after Michael's asthma got worse. He'd never been in a fight, never lied, never even missed curfew. Janelle would tell anyone who listened, he's a good kid, a good man. But no one was listening now. Not the court-appointed lawyer who yawned through the trial. Not the Da, who grinned as if he were collecting trophies. Not the judge who seemed more bored than burdened. She watched it unfold like a nightmare. Evidence dismissed, testimony rushed. And now her son, the boy she protected with everything, was being caged like a criminal. Not because he was guilty, but because he was invisible. The trial lasted just 3 days. 3. Janelle had expected it to take weeks, months even. She thought there would be experts. Forensics. Time to speak. Time to breathe. Instead, the days blurred into each other. Michael sat in silence while witnesses gave inconsistent stories. Someone said he had blood on his shirt. Another said he had screamed for help. But the prosecution didn't care for facts, they cared for conviction. Janelle wanted to scream every time the defense lawyer missed an objection. Every time the Da twisted Michael's quiet demeanor into coldness. The courtroom didn't care that her son was terrified. It called him emotionless. On the 3rd day, the jury left for just 2 hours. When they returned, they didn't look at her. Didn't look at him. Only the judge, who cleared his throat, then said the words that would shatter her world. The moment the verdict was read, something broke inside Janelle. It wasn't just grief. It was betrayal. Her belief in the system, the assurances she clung to, they all evaporated. She had taught Michael to believe in the law, to respect order, to be honest. And now that same system had branded him a murderer. She stood there still trembling, as the guards put shackles on his wrists. She didn't cry out again. Her voice was gone. She simply watched, eyes wide, heart numb. Michael turned once to look at her. Not with fear. Not with hate. Just loss. The kind of look a child gives when they know no one's coming to save them. That night, Janelle sat in the dark, surrounded by silence, one sentence echoing in her mind: they never even gave him a chance. Janelle didn't sleep after the verdict. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Michael's face, blank, betrayed. The next morning, she made coffee she didn't drink and stared out the window like the answers were hidden in the fog. Friends brought casseroles, prayers, and empty reassurances. God has a plan, they said. But Janelle had no use for plans that ended in cages. The public defender stopped answering her calls. The appeals process, she learned, would take months, maybe years. Michael was already inside. That clock had started. So she picked up a notebook, wrote down names she remembered from the trial, and circled one. Elena Diaz. A girl from the party. The one who cried on the stand but wouldn't make eye contact. Janelle didn't know what she was looking for. Only that no one else was looking at all. Janelle began retracing the night of the party. The house still stood, now empty, its windows covered in dust and flyers. She knocked on doors, asked neighbors what they'd seen. Most refused to talk. One woman said, "Leave it alone, it's over." But Janelle couldn't. She returned to the party house every evening after work, sitting in her car, watching. On the third night, someone left a note on her windshield. "You won't find what you're looking for." She kept it, folded it into her notebook, because someone had written it, which meant someone knew. And if someone knew, she was getting closer. That night she cried not from grief, but from the weight of silence. A system designed to forget her son, and punish her if she remembered. Elena Diaz was hard to find. Her social media had gone dark. She wasn't at her school anymore, and her old address had a new family. But Janelle kept digging. One lead from a diner worker led her to a different neighborhood, and after 2 weeks of asking the wrong people, Janelle spotted her, walking alone with her hood up. "Elena," she called, and the girl froze. She didn't run, but her eyes were wide, already looking for exits. "I don't want trouble," Elena said, voice shaking. Janelle stepped closer. "My son is in prison for something he didn't do." Elena's face twisted, not with guilt, but fear. "He didn't do it," she whispered. "But he saw who did." Then she ran. Not away from Janelle, but from whatever truth still hunted her. 2 days later, Elena was gone. Not missing but erased. Her number disconnected. Her social accounts deleted. The local police had no interest in a follow-up. "Not our concern," one officer said. Janelle stood outside the Diaz family's old apartment, banging on the door of strangers who looked through her like she was invisible. She felt the chill of something bigger, something coordinated. This wasn't just a bad trial. This was something deeper. Elena had been silenced, and Janelle was next on someone's list. She could feel it in the way people looked at her differently now. How even her pastor asked her to forgive and let go. But Janelle had let go of forgiveness. All she had left was fury, and her son's voice in her head, growing dimmer each day. The media didn't care. Janelle tried. She wrote letters, left voicemails, even showed up to local news stations. Nothing. One editor told her, "It's not the kind of story our audience responds to." Translation: it wasn't marketable. Not enough shock value. Not enough novelty. Just another young black man behind bars. But still, she pressed on. Printed flyers. Held signs outside the courthouse. Strangers called her obsessed. Her own sister said, "You're scaring people." Janelle stared at herself in the mirror, one morning, and barely recognized the woman looking back. Hardened. Tired. Alone. But behind her eyes, something else had formed. Not madness. Not delusion. Resolve. Because if the world wouldn't look at Michael, she'd force them to. Janelle's days became a cycle of research, phone calls, and long walks through neighborhoods that had stopped answering her. But something in her shifted. An instinct. She began requesting public records, trial transcripts, and police reports. At night, she studied legal websites and obscure precedents until her eyes burned. That's when she noticed it. A brief mention in a witness statement about a security camera, mounted on a liquor store across from the party house. No one had brought it up during trial. Not the defense. Not the prosecution. Not even the police. Janelle visited the store. The manager, a tired man in his 60s, remembered the night. Cops took the footage, he said, never returned it. That single sentence ignited her like a fuse. Someone had seen something. Someone had buried it. And now she wasn't just a grieving mother. She was hunting. The footage was gone, officially. No record. No chain of custody. The police log listed the camera as non-functional. But Janelle remembered the clerk's words. So she went further. Through Michael's high school friend group, she tracked down Caleb Morris, the boy who'd hosted the party. He was jittery, evasive, and refused to talk, until Janelle offered no threats, just truth. "My son is locked up for something he didn't do," she said. "If you're scared, imagine how scared he is." Caleb's hands shook as he confessed that one of his friends had downloaded the liquor store's backup footage before police took the original. He didn't have it anymore, but he knew who did. "It was Nathan," he said, voice low. "He said he was protecting someone." Janelle's stomach dropped. She remembered Nathan. The Diaz nephew. Nathan Caldwell. Clean record, dating all. Private school. Named. Nephew to the man who put Michael away. He'd vanished after the trial, moved away, they said. Janelle couldn't believe it was coincidence. Not now. Not after hearing that he had the footage. She dug into old social media. Found archived posts. Party selfies. Tags. Shot. Eventually, she traced him to a new alias. Nick Wallace, living 2 states away. It was a new identity, courtesy of family connections. But the internet didn't lie. A blurry photo showed him at a college event just 3 months earlier. Her hands trembled as she printed it out. Michael's face haunted her from a photo frame nearby. "You were supposed to be at college," she whispered. "Not him." Janelle didn't sleep that night. Because if Nathan had the truth, she would bring it back, piece by piece, even if it killed her. Michael's letters arrived every other week. Slow, uneven, like him losing grip on time. But this one was different. "Mom," it read, "there are screams here at night. I used to think it was people. Now I think it's what happens when hope dies." He described the silence, the food, the cold cement. "I keep waiting for someone to say it was a mistake, but no one comes." Janelle read the letter in the dark, again and again. She wept. Not because she was weak, because she couldn't stop the bleeding from 300 miles away. She clutched the paper to her chest like it was his heartbeat. That night she wrote back, "I believe you. I'm not stopping. Hold on." She didn't know if he could, but it was all she had to give. Her faith. Her fight. Janelle made one final visit to the DA office. Not to beg. Not to plead. She brought Michael's letter, the photo of Nathan, the names, the connections. All printed, indexed, and stapled into a binder. The receptionist gave her a cold smile. "No appointment?" she asked. "He's busy." Janelle didn't leave. She sat in the lobby for 4 hours. Staff whispered. Security hovered. Still, she waited. When the DA finally walked past, she stood, held out the binder. "You buried this," she said. He didn't take it. Didn't even flinch. "Ma'am, if you don't leave, I'll call someone." "Good," she replied. "Then I'll know someone saw this." For the first time, he looked her in the eyes. Just briefly. Then walked away. But Janelle saw the flicker. He recognized the name. He remembered the tape. And now he knew. She wasn't going anywhere. The call came just after midnight. A scrambled voice, barely a whisper over static. "You're right," it said. "The tape exists." Janelle sat upright in bed, her heart hammering. "Who is this?" she asked. No answer. Only breathing. Then, they knew. They all knew. The line went dead. Janelle stared at the phone. Her hands trembled, but not from fear, something deeper. Validation. Unravel. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't alone. The next morning, she traced the caller ID to a prepaid burner. Dead end. But her instincts circled one person, Malik Harper, a tech-savvy classmate of Michael's who'd once worked at the liquor store. She hadn't thought of him in months. Maybe he'd seen something. Maybe he still had it. She didn't hesitate. By 8 a.m., she was on his doorstep, binder in hand. She knocked once. Then twice. When he opened the door, his eyes widened. "I was wondering when you'd come." Inside Malik's cluttered apartment, years of digital hardware lined the walls. Old monitors, hard drives, cables like spiderwebs. He hadn't spoken to Michael since the arrest. "They told us to stay quiet," he said. "Said it was for our safety." Janelle sat across from him, silent. Malik swallowed. "I saw the tape. The original." Michael didn't touch Jason. He was trying to stop the bleeding. Janelle's breath hitched. "Do you have it?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "Not on me. I kept it off-grid, but I can get it." That was all she needed. Her fingers dug into the binder. "I need it now, Malik. No waiting. No fear." He looked away, then back at her, like someone deciding whether to jump. "Then let's go," he said. And just like that, the truth had a pulse again. They drove to an old self-storage facility on the edge of town. Malik's hands shook as he unlocked a rusted metal door. Inside was a sealed bin, covered in dust. From it, he pulled a hard drive wrapped in an old hoodie. "This is the last copy," he said. "If they find out, they won't," Janelle cut in. She held it like sacred ground. Back at her apartment, Malik loaded the footage. Grainy, time-stamped but clear. Michael, kneeling beside Jason, blood on his hands, but helping, not harming. In the far corner, another boy fled through the back gate. Frame by frame, Malik enhanced it, until the face emerged. Nathan Caldwell. Crystal clear. Janelle covered her mouth. The silence was overwhelming. "And then, this changes everything," Malik whispered. Janelle's voice trembled. "No, it proves what I've known all along." The footage was undeniable. Janelle took it to a journalist she remembered from the courtroom, Maya Lin, a local reporter with a reputation for integrity. At first, Maya was hesitant. "You're asking me to accuse the DA of a cover-up," she said. Janelle didn't flinch. "I'm asking you to report the truth." Maya agreed to watch. 10 minutes later, her face had changed. "Where did you get this?" "From the boy who was supposed to stay quiet," Janelle replied. Maya looked away, then nodded. "Let me do this right, I need a day." Janelle left the flash drive on the desk and walked out without another word. Outside, the air felt different. Still heavy, but charged. Something was coming. Not vengeance. Not closure. Exposure. And that was a start. Janelle waited in silence, the apartment dark except for a single lamp. Her phone buzzed. Maya's article was live. The headline: "New evidence suggests wrongful conviction in East End murder." Within hours, it went viral. Comments poured in. Journalists called. People remembered Michael's face. By sunrise, the Diaz office issued a cold, defensive statement. "We will review any new material," they said. But Janelle wasn't interested in statements. She wanted justice. The footage was already in the hands of Michael's new attorney. This time, not a public defender. This time, someone who cared. Janelle stared out her window, watching the sunrise. For the first time in years, she felt breath return to her lungs. Not peace. Not relief. But readiness. The system was stirring. And Janelle? She was just getting started. Courthouse looked the same, but to Janelle, it was no longer a place of judgment. It was a battlefield. She arrived with a flash drive in one pocket and sworn statements in the other. Her new attorney, Aisha Grant, was young but unshakable. "They won't take this easily," she warned. Janelle nodded. "Good. I didn't come for easy. Together they filed a motion to reopen Michael's case. The clerk's face barely shifted. It'll be reviewed, she said flatly. In time. Janelle didn't expect urgency. She expected resistance. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her, journalists had followed. Cameras clicked. Microphones appeared. And Janelle, for the first time, looked straight into them and said, "My son is innocent, and now you all know it." No tears. No cracks. Just the truth, finally amplified. Inside, the DA's office reacted just as Janelle had expected, with silence. No comment. No cooperation. Behind closed doors, emails flew. Staff whispered. The footage couldn't be denied, but they tried to spin it, not definitive, out of context. Could be anyone. But they were scrambling. And Janelle could feel it. Then, something shifted. A file leaked anonymously to Maya, emails between the DA and police, referencing the tape before the trial. They'd seen it. They'd buried it. Maya called it a bombshell. The story exploded. National news picked it up. Talk shows. Podcasts. For once, the noise wasn't drowning Janelle, it was lifting her. And Michael. He wasn't just a name anymore. He was a face. A symbol. Question mark that demanded an answer. The DA finally spoke. A press conference, held in a stone-faced attempt to control the fire. "We are reviewing new material," he said, voice clipped. "Our office remains committed to justice." But Janelle saw his eyes, uneasy, unfocused. She stood in the crowd, not as a spectator, but as the reckoning. "What about the suppressed footage?" one reporter shouted. "Why wasn't it in the original trial?" Another asked, "Do you deny protecting your nephew?" The DA's face darkened. "That accusation is unfounded," he snapped. But the words rang hollow. Janelle didn't need to shout. The pressure was doing its work. He knew. And now, everyone else did too. This wasn't just about one boy anymore. It was about a system that protected its own, until the truth broke through. With mounting public pressure, the court had no choice but to schedule a new hearing. Michael was transported back from prison, shackled, thinner, quieter, but not broken. When Janelle saw him enter the courtroom, their eyes locked. No words, just shared breath. His attorney presented the footage. Every frame, every timestamp. Then, a sworn affidavit from Malik. Copy of the DA's email. The courtroom sat frozen as the judge watched in silence. The DA's team tried to deflect. Technicalities, chain of custody. No proof of intentional suppression. But no one was listening anymore. The truth was louder than their excuses. Michael sat upright, hands folded, eyes locked on the people who had stolen his voice. He was still in cuffs. But not for long. Michael stood to speak. No longer a boy. His voice was deeper, more deliberate, like each word had been carved out of stone. "You stole everything from me," he said, looking directly at the DA. "And you sleep just fine." The room didn't move. He continued, 7 years. I screamed and no one listened. My mother screamed and you called her crazy. But she never stopped. That's why I'm here. Not because you cared, but because she did." Silence followed. No objection. No rebuttal. The judge's expression was unreadable. But Michael didn't need their approval. He had already won something back. His voice. His dignity. His truth. Oh. When he sat down, he didn't look at the press or the DA. He looked at Janelle and nodded once. She nodded back, tears rising. The storm was far from over. But they were through the eye. The judge called for a recess, but the court didn't exhale. Reporters swarmed outside, speculating on a retrial, an overturned verdict, even charges against the DA. Inside the quiet corridor, Janelle and Michael sat side by side on a bench. Neither spoke. She studied him, his thinner frame, the faint tremble in his hand, the scars on his wrist. He wasn't the boy she raised. He was older, harder, but alive. And still hers. Michael finally said, "I thought about dying, Mom. A lot." She didn't flinch. Just reached out and gripped his hand. "I know," she said. "But you didn't. That's what matters." They sat like that for a long time, mother and son suspended in a moment where time bowed to their endurance. The system tried to erase him. But it hadn't succeeded. Not yet. In a pressurized chamber of silence, the judge returned and called the courtroom to order. "In light of new evidence," he began, voice firm but neutral, "and the prosecution's failure to disclose material exculpatory content, the court finds sufficient grounds for vacating the conviction of Michael Carter." Gasps rippled. Janelle squeezed her eyes shut. She didn't weep, just listened. "Mr. Carter is hereby released from state custody, effective immediately." The gavel struck. Michael remained frozen. No dramatic leap. No smile. Only a long exhale, as if 7 years had been held in his lungs. He looked at his mother. Janelle rose slowly, unsure if it was real. Then she moved, fast. They collided in an embrace that silenced the room. No words were exchanged. None were needed. The walk out of the courthouse was quiet. No grand speeches. No fists in the air. Janelle and Michael stepped onto the plaza, arm in arm. The cameras exploded. Reporters screamed questions. Flashes turned the afternoon into strobe. "How does it feel? Will you sue? What would you say to the DA?" Michael didn't answer. He kept walking, head down. Janelle shielded him with her arm. They weren't there for spectacle. They were there for freedom. A few steps from the curb, Michael paused. He turned, faced the crowd and raised his voice, once. "You all looked the other way. Now you look at me." Then he turned back and walked into sunlight. A man reclaimed, if not restored. That night, they didn't go home. Not yet. Michael asked to visit one place first, Jason's grave. The cemetery was quiet, tucked in the edge of the city, blanketed in dusk. Michael walked ahead, hands in his pockets until he found it. A simple headstone. No flowers. No peace. He knelt and placed his palm on the stone. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't speak when I should have. I thought silence was safer. I thought someone else would tell the truth." Janelle stood behind him, tears flowing freely now. Michael didn't cry. He just sat there, still. The weight of both guilt and injustice pressing down. But even in grief, there was clarity. He didn't owe silence anymore. He owed truth. That would be his way forward. Back at Janelle's apartment, everything felt both familiar and alien. The furniture hadn't moved, but the world had. Michael stood in the center of the living room, scanning photos on the wall, trophies, birthday smiles, childhood frozen before the fall. He touched one frame lightly. "Feels like another life," he said. Janelle joined him, her hand brushing his shoulder. "It is, but you're here now." He nodded, unsure. That night, they didn't speak much. She made him his favorite, mac and cheese with hot sauce. He ate slowly, adjusting to normal. Later, Janelle found him asleep on the couch, the TV flickering soft blue light across his face. She sat nearby, watching him breathe. A new beginning wasn't easy, but it had arrived, quiet, trembling, undeniable. The news didn't stay quiet. National networks ran segments on Michael's release. Talk shows invited Janelle to speak. Civil rights groups reached out. For a moment, the world saw the truth, how the system chewed up a boy and buried the evidence. But with attention came distortion. "Miracle Mother Saves Innocent Son," read one headline. Janelle didn't want praise. She wanted accountability. Michael didn't want fame. He wanted space. He spent days inside, blinds drawn, reacquainting himself with time. He didn't know what day it was half the time. Didn't care. But at night, The letters he wrote in prison sat on the floor beside him, unopened. Not yet, he told Janelle when she offered to help him sort them. I lived them once. That's enough for now. Healing would come slowly, if at all. And the world was already moving on. But Michael wasn't ready to. Janelle walked back into her church the following Sunday. Heads turned. Some smiled. Others avoided her eyes. The same people who told her to let go now wanted to congratulate her. Her pastor offered kind words, a public prayer. But Janelle only nodded. Her faith hadn't broken, it had evolved. It wasn't in buildings or sermons anymore. It was in the quiet endurance of a mother's will. After service, a woman approached her in tears. My nephew, he's in county, says he didn't do it. Janelle took her hand. Then don't stop fighting. Ever. That was the legacy. Not fame. Not victory. Persistence. The kind that didn't need applause. Just purpose. Janelle had been dragged through fire. And now, she was the torch for others. That was how she'd make peace, with the system, with her God, and with herself. A formal apology never came. No press release. No admission. The day quietly resigned. For personal reasons. Nathan Caldwell disappeared again, name scrubbed, future untouched. But the silence said everything. Janelle filed a civil suit, not just for damages but for accountability. They think we want money, she told Aisha. I want records. I want names. The lawsuit began to unfold. Depositions. Discovery. Diet. Layers peeled back. And the truth, documented, time-stamped, was now evidence. Not just hearsay. Not emotion. But cold, hard proof of a system that sacrificed the innocent for the comfort of the connected. Janelle didn't expect justice to win overnight. But it was moving. Inch by inch. And in a system built to resist change, inches meant everything. Michael took one final step before disappearing from public view. He visited the school he once dreamed of attending, a local college where his scholarship had vanished after his arrest. A professor recognized him and offered a quiet tour. Empty classrooms. Lockers. A library filled with silence. Michael walked slowly, taking it all in. He didn't ask for special treatment. Didn't speak much. At the edge of the library, he stopped and looked out the window. Students passed below, laughing. Moving forward. He watched them. Not with envy. With distance. Maybe someday, he said quietly to no one. Then he turned and left, unseen by the students. Just another shadow passing through a space that should have been his. Michael stood outside the courthouse that took his life. No crowds this time. No cameras. Just silence. Another boy was being tried inside. Same age, same zip code, same look of fear in his mother's eyes. Michael didn't go in. He just watched. The city moved around him. Cars, people, routine. Justice, he realized, wasn't broken. It was working exactly how it was built. Justice isn't blind, he said aloud. It's just expensive. Then he turned to leave. A soft breeze brushed his face. A door slammed behind him. Somewhere, a gavel struck. Michael didn't flinch. He walked down the steps without looking back. The courthouse faded into the background. And in his silence, the world whispered what it never dared to say aloud. We knew. We just didn't care.